Greetings, my friends. Please consider supporting me in my war to save pop culture by subscribing to my channel and possibly even becoming a channel member for exclusive videos, access to Doomcock emojis, and more. And if you like this video in particular, please consider using the new Super Thanks feature and putting a tip in the tip jar located next to the like buttons down at the bottom of the video. Thank you for watching, and now, on to the video. Greetings, my friends. I am Dictor Van Doomcock, the future ruler of Earth, broadcasting from my hidden base at the center of the Earth, and I stand before you today to review and to warn you about the latest Disney Plus series, Andor. I have to tell you right off the bat, there will be some very minor spoilers given in this review because there's no way around that. As is usually the case with Disney Star Wars episodes, so little actually happens in these first 3 episodes. If not for a few minor spoilers, it would be hard to talk about this series at all. But I promise you, nothing much will be spoiled here that you'd care about, and I'll be as general as I can, sparing the details. I can tell you right off the bat, this series is much better than Book of Boba Fett or the dreadful Obi-Wan Kenobi, but it also has a lot of flaws you should be advised about before deciding whether or not to spend your valuable time giving it a watch. I'm going to be as fair and as thorough as I can be in this review without giving away too much. There are some good things about Andor and some bad things, and your enjoyment of this show will be determined by your level of patience and your personal tolerance for something that doesn't exactly light a fire under your ass. But let's break this down, shall we?
Personally, Doomcock, I think Disney has killed Star Wars. Kathleen Kennedy, the quintessential devil in these matters, is still at Lucasfilm, spreading hemlock, wokeness, and instant coffee saved up from her job as a secretary all over the franchise. Gina Carano is still fired, which means a vast number of fans aren't coming back to this damn mess. And we have no assurances that all this bullshit isn't leading into the sequel trilogy that murdered Star Wars. So for me, this is a no right out of the gate.
I hear you and I agree. Star Wars is on its last legs, and those legs may only be moving in a kind of Weekend at Bernie Palpatine kind of way, with strings attached, sprayed down with Lysol to hide the smell of decay. Still, I think the last chance for Star Wars is Ahsoka, not Andor. If Filoni is still planning to erase the sequel trilogy using Ahsoka and the Veil of the Force, the world between worlds, I'm willing to be patient a bit longer. But the clock is ticking, and my patience is not inexhaustible. The minute it's clear all of this is just heading to the sequel trilogy, Disney can shove their Star Wars, and I'm finished with the whole damn thing. They're skating on very thin ice now, Harvey, so let's take a look at that particular patch of thin ice they call Andor. So, what's good about Andor? It's not a long list, but in the interest of fairness and being thorough, these points bear mentioning. First of all, Diego Luna, as always, delivers a very good performance as Andor. Not stand-up and cheer level good, but perfectly fine. He's not a weird simp like the dude in Moon Knight, not a dickless weasel like Obi-Wan my money back in Kenobi. Andor doesn't have a little kid who is the answer to everything tagging along with him, thank God. Andor isn't craven and cowering before a woman who is vastly better than him at everything. Andor seems relatively competent as a character, and I don't hate him. Usually by now, I'm either starting to hate or completely hating what Disney has done to the lead male on any given show, but I don't hate Andor, which is something of a miracle. Likewise, I like his little droid quite a bit. I think he's a fun design and manages to be quite expressive in a way that the repulsive BB-8 never managed. Stellan Skarsgård is also in the show, and he's always an interesting actor to watch, regardless of what he's in. The rest of the cast is also surprisingly competent, and thus far I don't hate or despise any of the main good guy characters because in these first 3 episodes, there isn't any in-your-face wokeness putting down white males, although we do know this is coming, without a doubt. An interview I described in a video yesterday made it clear that Kathleen Kennedy's special brand of misandry and intersectional feminism is definitely coming. But as of episodes 1 to 3, it hasn't really arrived yet, except in minor ways, which I will discuss in a moment. One of the best things about Andor is the fact that this show is a more adult take on Star Wars. In the opening, Andor shows himself to be a hard-ass character, killing two assholes who were hassling him and shooting one of them, who was helpless and kneeling, right in the fucking face at point-blank range. I saw that, and I was immediately impressed that they were going to let Andor actually be something of a badass in a way they didn't let Mando be for the longest time. I like this more adult approach to Star Wars. There is also a pretty good action scene towards the end of Episode 3, not outstanding, but also not without interest, given how they use the environment during the battle to affect its outcome. The special effects are okay, nothing terribly exciting or special. The photography is rather drab, the colors are drab. I think that pretty much wraps up all the good things about Andor. Now let's get to the rubbish. And there's plenty of it, given that a lot of it is set in junkyards. One of the biggest problems with Andor is it's slow. You can always tell there's a problem with pacing when Disney or Amazon release several episodes of a new series at once. That means the producers know that this show is boring, folks. They know that if they just release one episode, people are going to come away scratching their heads saying, well, that was a fistful of meh. And they're right. Amazon's Board of the Rings, Rings of Power, released 2 episodes at once for this very reason. But the problem was, both of those episodes were boring as day-old shit on a beige stick. Well, Andor did them one better, or worse as the case may be. Andor released 3 episodes all at once, mainly because we don't get any major action scenes until that 3rd episode.
I guess the existential question is it really Star Wars if they forget to include the wars part? And seeing as how this mostly takes place in junkyards and Andor's house, they kind of forgot about the stars part as well. So light on the stars, light on the wars, par for the course with Disney Star Wars, where dreams go to die, especially George Lucas's dreams.
Andor has the tone and pacing of an old 2-star movie about wartime spies, maybe circa 1964, where you mostly have spies skulking around, gathering intel, getting ready to act at some point in the future, and drinking heavily in shadowy cantinas in the meantime. And if that's your bag, you may enjoy this show because it's a slow burn that may or may not fizzle out in future episodes. But look, it's a problem if the show is so basic you can describe the first 3 episodes in a few sentences and not miss much. Here's the light spoilers, which you'll see are no big deal at all. Andor gets in trouble with the law. He has something very valuable he wants to sell so he can get away before they come for him. He calls on a friend to use her contacts to reach out to a buyer. The authorities find out who Andor is. He has something in his past that makes him highly wanted. The guy comes to buy the gizmo from Andor. Some fighting ensues. And that's really all there is to the first 3 episodes in a broad sense. The first episode starts out with that aforementioned action scene that I liked, and then we don't get any major action until the end of episode 3, so yeah, this is not a thrilling joyride. At its best, Star Wars was fun, just a huge shitload of good old-fashioned fun. Disney Star Wars is at worst silly and boring, and at best earnestly serious, atmospheric, and boring.
Well, that's not true, Doomcock. The Mandalorian has been a lot better than that.
Oh, it's very true, Harvey. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, against all odds, have managed to make some honestly excellent Star Wars, even being kneecapped and sabotaged by Kathleen Kennedy at every turn. Kennedy getting Gina Carano fired really messed up Favreau's plans and successfully alienated a ton of Star Wars fans. And yet, an active saboteur working against the franchise's success, like Kennedy, is allowed to stick around and continue the bad work by the Disney board. Unbelievable, but entirely factual. But with the exception of The Mandalorian and possibly The Bad Batch, Disney Star Wars sucks because it's just not Star Wars. There's no sense of fun, There's no excitement. It's just kind of lurching from plot point to plot point like a zombie half-heartedly looking for brains to munch on as a light snack. And one of the worst things about Andor are the endless flashbacks. Oh my God. Every time the show seems to be gaining a little narrative momentum, they interrupt the flow of the story with another really, really boring flashback to Andor's childhood. It tells how he got the valuable doohickeys now trying to sell, how he met another one of the characters. He lived in a primitive tribe on his home planet, living off the land like Native Americans, I suppose. Basically, Andor and his people are Ewoks without fur, like an Amazon tribe, only a bit more advanced with their clothing. And yeah, it's every bit as boring and pointless as it sounds. The interminable flashbacks are even more boring in Andor than Boba Fett's flashbacks were in Book of Boba Fett. And while many of you were fine with those, I found all the Dancing with Sand People stuff to be obvious, cliched, and tedious. And I liked these flashbacks even less.
Ouch.
Yeah, ouch. Overall, I don't mind a slow narrative if I get a sense that it's leading somewhere interesting. A build-up to some kind of nice spy action that'll pay off in the end. I don't know if that's the case here. I suspect the whole doohickey thing that these first 3 episodes are focusing on turns out to be nothing but a red herring, which pisses me off that we wasted so much time on a MacGuffin. But I suppose we'll see in episode 4, where I think we'll start to see Kennedy's wokeness rear its ugly head. So in terms of real Star Wars, Andor is a straight-up fail. There is no fun to be found in it at all, it's not terribly exciting, and there's nothing of the rollicking spirit of adventure so exemplified by George Lucas to be found in this show. In terms of being Disney Star Wars, I give it 2.5 stars out of 5. It's much better than Book of Boba Fett, much better than Kenobi, not nearly as good as Mandalorian, better than Solo, the Star Wars movie, vastly better than the sequel trilogy, not as good as Rogue One. So whether or not you decide to watch depends on your patience with slow narratives which may or may not be building to anything, and how pissed off you are at Disney. As for my part, I feel I need to watch more to let you guys know where it's going and if it improves or devolves. But if I weren't the future ruler of Earth with an obligation to review things for you guys, I'd be skipping it. I didn't hate it. There were some things that were good about it. But overall, there's just too many good things in the world to keep wasting time on mediocrity. Watch this space for updates on future episodes. But until then, my friends, stay angry. Ha 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 ha.